Which foot? Left foot, huh?
Yeah. Left foot, yeah, left foot.
Left foot first. I don't buy that they're circling each other. You know what I mean? I don't buy that that ship could actually turn. At what distance do you start to kind of buy that, you know?
Is that something that you want to see that today?
Well, we're not going to have time today.
Well, I mean, we can move it in an hour.
7:15 in the morning, Saturday, and we're going to move the Black Pearl.
And the Pearl on Saturday moves over to its position, and then we move those in on these air bearings that I'll show you. We're close. You might want to walk through the store and see what those are.
You played air hockey before. This is air hockey upside down. You put compressed air in here, usually no more than 50 psi. Comes through and inflates inside of here and comes out and around, and it forms a whole layer. So you're constantly bending the air. So with all these little square inches you add up in here, you take 55 multiplied by all those square inches. This particular one will lift about 7 tons, 14,000 pounds. This one will lift 106,000 pounds, just one. The ships, when they're all in full fighting form, they'll probably be right about 750,000 pounds. We have 1.2 million lifting capacity.
Well, let's get some air bearings on this thing, back it up 50, and then back it up 70, and then back it up 100.
It's probably the biggest, heaviest set ever moved.
As you may see, Effects has placed 8 air bearings underneath the set itself.
Less air pressure that's in the tire on your cars.
It's not so much moving it, it's controlling it. Once it gets in the air, it kind of wants to do its own thing.
We're going to use the forklifts as like little tugboats, and they'll just shove it along. So we're lacking water, we're lacking sails, and we're lacking wind, so this is Hollywood's way of moving a boat.
See, this, when I buy this on a wide lens, so this distance was fantastic. That moved so quick. That was great, man.
So we can move this ship in probably about 45 minutes any place they want it on the soundstage. Gloria, yes, I think so. I think you get a smile, you get that's the same as that.
3, 2, 1, go!
This is the biggest blue screen setup I've ever seen.
A lot of blue.
I think this may be the largest blue screen ever. Engineering is pretty impressive on all this stuff.
From what I've known and seen, this is probably the largest blue screen that's ever been erected. This is basically 250 by 250, blue screen and black. We had, I think at one point, all the fabric in town.
I don't think they could make a blue dress if they wanted to in Los Angeles right now. That we used every piece of blue fabric, I think, known to man.
Are you ready? Hey, here we go.
We have this blue screen scenario to put all our boats, so we can shoot 360 degrees all the scenes out.
Ready, action!
We could blue screen around all the ships, both the main ships. We could then run it on a separate track to isolate one ship from the other.
So we're able to cut down the middle, so at times to shoot one of the ships against blue screen when we didn't want the ship next to it. For instance, if we're shooting the Black Pearl and we didn't want to see the Flying Dutchman because it was too far away, and later on ILM would put it in, we would shoot it against blue there.
All right, here we go. Pictures up.
Yeah, we got a lot of pixels to fill in.
What a gimbal allows us to do is manipulate the ship. It simulates the ship being on water, basically, with movement, you know, port to starboard and bow to stern.
Those big things there are the hinges that get put into here, basically like your very big Lego set, right? You gotta put it together, they attach the hydraulics. Good.
We had to design and we had to create this monster in 3 months.
It starts out in an art department request. You know, they'll tell you what they're planning to do. Like we talked about storyboards. Right. They'll go over, we need to have this particular look, and they may even progress to the previs stage to where they'll have it, you know, computer animated, and we'll look at the motions that they're wanting.
Then comes the actual building of it. We had 150 special effects welders on this project, and we were working 24/7.
We're building the gimbal. We're starting off with the level beams and making the main outer frame out of 1/2-inch wall by 6-inch square tubing.
Like I say, there's over 1 million pounds of steel. Some of the steel, it didn't exist. A company in Arkansas made some of the I-beams for us for the base. The hydraulics team actually, I mean, they just stepped up to the plate. There's over 2,000 feet of hydraulic hose. Everybody on this project, all 150 of the special effects guys that worked on this project, gave us 150%. And it's quite an honor because there's a lot of other guys they could have gone to, but they chose our team.
This is your geography show. Well, I mean, if the ship moves over. This is a difficult blue screen situation because there are various things that intrude on the blue screen. There's special effects equipment, there's stunt equipment, and then there's all the atmospherics.
Let's turn on the rain and wind, please. Rain and wind.
We're putting so much rain out there that in certain angles, this blue screen is completely obscured by the rain. And also we have the wind that takes the rain almost horizontal. And then when wind hits the rain, then mists it out, which disguises the blue screen even more. So it's kind of a give and take game between us and visual effects. Sometimes John says, you guys are crazy, we can pull them out of it.
Take us out! Hold on, overbear us!
But I can pull this back down a little bit, take a little saturation out of it.
It's easy to dial back in.
If we shot with a little less practical rain on set, I can always add a little more. I can always make it a little denser, but if it's shot really dense in the plates, I can't take it out.
I'm concerned with a shot like this, the dynamics are not going to be what you want. Then I'm going to be trying to get rid of it.
The goal is to at least be able to see the maelstrom to some extent out there.
Dearly beloved, we've gathered here today to...
You're really in the storm, you barely see the background. And that's what it would look like. You wouldn't see defined dramatic clouds if you're shooting a medium shot with a torrential rain. You just don't see it in reality. So this way we kind of protecting ourselves so it's not gonna look fake. Sometimes we back it off, sometimes we increase it, and we're creating this kind of a framework for John to start with.
You want to extract the rain, you want to keep it in the final shot. So you're trying to extract all this really fine detail.
Last but not least, a little stamp of mist or rain.
And it's just difficult given those circumstances. The big challenge was that it all had to be done in a very, very short period of time.
So I wanted to focus on the end of Pirates 3.
What first comes to mind for me about the Maelstrom is you're making a trilogy, and a trilogy demands a climax. A trilogy demands a sense of arriving at something. And when you don't have that starting off, it's a very sort of frightening thing. The Endeavor's barreling down on us, we're a sitting duck. You want that beat as the early beat.
Right. So the creation of the Maelstrom involved Terry and Tim, Johnny and all our actors, but Gore is the master of it. Gore is the one who has to orchestrate it all. A lot of the ideas that you see on the screen, the majority of them came from Gore.
We get Jack out of the brig way too soon because they haven't released Calypso, they haven't done it, so he's like out of the brig, wandering on the ship. What if we take the second scene and move it to during the battle?
The writers are working as hard as they can to get it done, but because it's not finished, Gore would have me come in and try to flesh out some of these ideas.
These guys go this way, those guys go that way, and you drop down.
We're sort of writing the script with storyboards right now. He's writing.
Originally, the boat was going to go through the Maelstrom to get to Davy Jones's locker.
It was going to have to go through this whirlpool. And then Gore thought, no, let's save the Maelstrom for the end, for the finale.
We had a ship-to-ship battle in the first movie, and it's like, wow, do we really want to go with like a big ship-to-ship battle? But once the idea of it's in a whirlpool, oh yeah, I haven't seen that before. That'll be spectacular.
I think probably the sky first, and then a kind of first strike of lightning hits the sea, and then it starts to move, and so you get kind of those two worlds.
The ship that we introduced in the first movie, the Black Pearl, battling the ship of the second movie, the Flying Dutchman. When you get that and you go, oh, there's a sense of relief. We have our climax.
Soft daylight basically is generated by the dome of the sky. That's why we have about 1,200 space lights. And they also fluctuate because the boat turns in a circle. So we have kind of come up with an idea that partially some of this light goes up and down on a dimmer to create the effect of a northern sky and a southern sky.
3,000 dimmers. 12 weeks, 30 guys a day. And these are all lights. And depending on where they're looking, we'll put on different sections of the lights at different intensities. So the blue numbers are ones that we can actually dim all the way down. They can go from 0% to 100%.
Well, because of the number of lights that we have, because we want to be able to have maximum control of those lights, we have approximately 3,200 dimmer channels here on this job. This is a dimmer rack. It's a control unit that sends power to the lamp once you tell it to. Can you show me the look we had before lunch, please?
We take this console, which is called the Whole Hog 3, and we can program anything in any configuration we want. I can see what every single light is doing. It shows me exactly what I'm playing back, what lights are running.
So you can see they're starting to come up. Now go ahead and save your lights, please. Go back to cool down mode.
The character of the Tiadama, she grows 50 feet tall and bursts into 100,000 crabs. How do we do this to, get the feeling that the crew is being engulfed by crabs and she's spilled out over the ship? Gore came up with the idea, well, what about these blue balls? And we all thought, well, my God, you'd have to have 150,000 blue balls.
Lots of R&D.
This is a blue ball test.
We drop different numbers of balls at different rates, different heights. We had a ramp. The ramps were at different angles, and just trying to get the most out of the balls as it hit the actors. After doing all the tests, we figured out that 35 feet above the deck of the ship was the height that we needed our nets. We had these 3 big nets that held almost about 80,000 per net. The balls dropped 35 feet into ramps that projected them towards the stunt guys. It just knocked them over. It was pretty spectacular.
It was crazy to watch.
3, 2, 1, action!
It's really a visual effects shot, but he loves the idea that they have to interact with something.
A lot of swimming. Trying to get underneath, push yourself up.
We think it's the great cosmic joke to suddenly end up in an aeroplane hangar in Palmdale, drowning in what feels like a great magic playroom.
It's amazing to see a bunch of 40 and 50-year-olds turn into 3-year-olds. All of a sudden, everybody had to pick up blue balls and hit the other guy in the back of the head. It was like, is it time for the parents to come and pick up the kids?
Check. 1, 2. 1, 2.
Another water cannon test. Another water cannon test.
We'll be wet for 3 months.
It all starts on a piece of paper and a napkin, usually at some lunch meeting. And then, 600 very talented men and women come in here and build all this.
This is the first Maelstrom shot. It's a big wide master seeing a lot of mayhem, seeing the entire length of the deck, air mortars going off, stunt rigs going, cannons flying, camera tracks all the way down along the deck of the ship up to a close-up of Barbossa at the wheel.
Perfect. Cut. Perfect.
So here we go. It's the beginning of things. Our tracking shot starts way on the extreme bow, then moves up. We'll see those people in the bow leading up to the staircase. So the bow has to be active, and I think play the fact that your ship's under attack and maybe work some of those ropes and everything. We've got to work that area. It's just as important as the center deck. In terms of the countdown, we'll start this way. We'll do a ready and action. On action, you start performing, and then very quickly, based off of Zach running, you will be on what they're calling the voice of God, where it's a speaker system up above. And he'll be counting it out based on the visual on Zach. So.
Yeah, 1 is basically right when we see those rapids. See, now we're coming up right into 1. Okay. We're going to be framed for that right after 1. 1, toss. And that's really our window to see. We're moving much faster now.
So the only elements that you have to worry about now are the mortar pots, the debris, the balsa wood. That's not going to hurt you, but what would hurt you is if you got it in the face. All right, everybody good? You all look fantastic?
Yeah!
Here we go. All right.
Let's shoot one.
Oh, God. Pictures up. Hey, pictures up now.
Turn on the wings, turn the wings.
Hey, hold on. Rolling, rolling.
Ready. Action.
It's too late to all the cars nowadays. Everyone okay?
So far, so good. Shot 1 of about 3,000.
We built all the motion bases in 3 months. First, we built the skeleton of the ship, and then they built the ship on top. Then we started to proceed and built the towers that hold it up, and there's a tower at each end of the ship, which makes the ship move up and down. And then from there, we have to hook it up to a computer. When you get to that point, you pretty much have to walk away because it's like watching paint dry with these guys. But they have the patience, and they're terrific at what they do, and they don't turn it on until every bar is synced up, every graph is just there.
What we have here is a motion control computer system that runs both the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman. We basically generate anything we want the boat to do just by typing in commands. We had some preset moves a few days ahead of time, so when the director sees it, he can make some adjustments here and there.
We're going to 30 degrees. This is 10 right now. That's fantastic. I think when the deck's wet, it's going to be a little bit of a problem.
And we've got pressure sensors in each cylinder, so we can monitor the weights of the ship and how is it when it's moving. We can watch to see if there's a problem. We know how much weight is in one spot of the boat. It's kind of a safety thing, plus it also tells us what's going on in case there's a problem. So once we get it all set up here, get the boats kind of in level position, then I hand it off to him. He controls both boats. And it's an awfully big video game. We haven't been on it yet, but we were told by people that have been on it that it's very realistic.
This is probably one of the smoothest motion bases. You can't even hear it run. And this is a testament to the guys that built it, that it's that smooth. I'm just thrilled that we can do this. I mean, the first time I saw it rise up, it's absolutely breathtaking to see that ship move like that.
Right now we're riding on our elevator that our grip department put in for us. So this was put in so that we could actually get the cable up to the higher levels because of the amount of it and the weight of it. This was the most efficient way to get the amount of cable up there we needed.
Unfortunately, it moves at 7 seconds a foot. And at about 80 feet, it takes about 8.5 minutes to get to the top.
And, oh, that felt good. We're in.
You're in. When they call lunch, or when they call wrap, it's going to take you an extra 10 minutes to get down here, so you got to be a little prepared for that. It's a slow-moving elevator, but it holds a lot of weight, so it's sort of important.
Thank you for flying with us today. Please be careful exiting the car. Bye, Mom. Everybody hold your breath.
It's the most incredible thing. I've never been on a set like it, and I thought it was just me because I'm from England. But actually, I asked Jerry Bruckheimer, I said, I've never seen anything like this before. He said, well, neither have I.
This hangar is where they built airplanes. I think they built the B-1 bomber there. So it's enormous.
When we were contacted to actually build these motion bases for this segment of the movie, the first thing that comes up is what are our requirements? And a lot of space. That's what's required.
Ready, and action!
We needed a place to build 2 full-size ships, and we have the full deck and much of the side of the Black Pearl. I mean, and they're big ships. The Palmdale hangar ended up being this place that was not only available, it was relatively close to Los Angeles.
We had a great base. We had a concrete floor that was 12 inches thick. We could put any amount of weight on it that we really needed. Each one of those motion bases with the ship on it weighs 1 million pounds. The floor had to be perfectly level.
The buildings are clear for 70 feet, and then there's another 25 feet above that, which is where we had the lights and the catwalk systems tucked into.
The only place they could shoot it was here at Palmdale. It's huge. I mean, it would be the size of 4 or 5 football fields.
When we first scouted it, it was like, what are we doing here? There's just no way we're going to fill this place up. It's huge. Well, a month into filming, as you said, every nook and cranny on that floor had either set pieces, equipment, and then we had, 8 sets out there.
I can't imagine doing it any other way. It was the best place to do it, and it turned out great.
What we're doing now is logistically huge undertaking. Because we have 2 ships inside. It's supposed to look like day, with rain and everything. So logistically, to make it work, it's really complicated. No, it's going to be a really soft flight, but I mean, look at this. We're just shooting something so big that we're going to be running out of space immediately. So every inch we can buy.
This just started up in the corner with absolutely nothing. Nobody up there.
We're up high on the catwalk system that we're building in the hangar here.
This is for all the lighting that they're gonna put up there. Now there's walkways, walk systems, safety rails, and everything. It's awesome.
As you can see, Electric has put in upwards to about 1,000 pieces of cable and run them up the wall into what will eventually be our own personal grid.
Dave, thanks so much for the show.
12 hours a day you're up here putting cable in. This is home.
Ending up with 1,400 space lights and several miles of cable.
Our rigging department did a wonderful job getting this rig in. This was a 3-month job to put this in.
That's all there is to it.
We cleaned out several rental houses of several pieces of equipment. All the soft suns in the United States are hanging right over here. A good portion of the space lights in Southern California are hanging in this building.
Theoretically, it's very easy to draw it on the paper, but to get it done the guys did a remarkable job.
This painter over here is Ed O'Connell. He's my husband. He has been in the business 35 years, and you can see he's one of the most talented painters.
And this is my wife, Anna Marie, better known as Sugar, because she's so sweet. And she's pretty darn good herself.
These are all the pictures of The first boat in the Bahamas. Look at there. That's a good shot right there. Is that beautiful? Yeah, so that's what we're doing, matching it exactly. It's actually gold leaf. And we're going to paint it to look just like this up here. They're all processed as we do.
Is all the paint going to hold up through 2 months of rain?
Seems to be so far. That's great. We gave it a coat of this material called Supercrete, which is a really highly, waterproof, like concrete product. And then all the paint's epoxy and everything beyond that. So it's really strong. So it seems to be fine.
I'm making this seaweed look like moss, little mossy colors. And I'm gonna throw a little green textured moss on it too. So yeah, I'm just adding colors to this moss here. It's gonna hang off the Dutchman. We're adding greens and yellows to bring more life to it. Comes out of the package, it's too dull looking. They want to have a little bit of life to it.
Rain.
Rain. First rain of the day.
More rain.
Okay, turning on the rain. Let's rain on the pearl, please.
Torrential rain.
I mean, that's a lot of rain.
Again, it's the theme of this movie. There's always water. If we're not over water, we're not on the water, we're not shooting in the water, we're going to get rained on.
$50,000 gallons a minute is pretty much like raining in Dodger Stadium. This is more rain than's ever been created on a motion picture soundstage.
We spent about 2.5 months being rained on. It was a downpour, and it looks like it on the film.
Aye, that be true.
And you feel it when you were there.
Hey, Joe, let me know when you're full up. Hey, full up. Rolling, rolling.
You start with testing rain heads, and we'll do that. We tested rain heads for weeks and finally got the look that Gore wanted. When it's just raining outside, you could care less about the size of it. When you're making a movie, the size of that raindrop is real critical.
We got 72 rain heads up in that grid system up in the ceiling. We've got rain for rent, 240-foot containers full of water. It's just a lot of work, and hopefully everybody likes the rain.
Our favorite part of the day was the first time the rain came on. It was freezing.
All right, so guys, we're gonna start raining on the pearl, get you wet.
Because the rain would, of course, sit in the pipes overnight, and you're in the desert, nighttime, it got cool, and it was, you just go, okay, turn on the rain, and just clenched and just shivered a lot. And then it warmed up. It got to a point where it was tolerable. It was amazing.
I said, I can get the rain in there, no problem, but my bigger concern is getting the rain out of here. We're not raining into a tank, we're raining right onto the stage floor.
It's a giant recirculating system. As it hits the ground, it goes into these gratings into the floor, which recirculate back to a sump pump system in the back side, which pumps it back through another filtration system.
And it's preheated so that when the rain comes back out, we don't chill our actors.
Heating and filtration systems, just like you'd have a swimming pool.
We pump the water in, it goes up 80 feet, it rains down on the set, and that's the cycle.
One of the challenges to create a storm sequence, obviously you have all the special effects elements, rain and wind, but when you're inside, you're recreating an ambient exterior, you're creating nature's light, God's light. Can you go to 3 bubbles and take it out of the cube, please? You have to have a large overhead ambient source that'll wrap around just like the sky does, so that it feels real. It doesn't feel like you're on a stage. When Gore was talking about this scene, he envisioned that part of the sky would be brighter and part of the sky would be darker. And as the boats are spinning, they would turn toward the brighter sky, the darker sky. So he wanted to try and recreate that here on stage. So we designed a chase sequence with our lights so that they would get brighter and then go darker, just to kind of recreate that feeling of spinning.
That's what I'm saying. It goes through the ring, and then it goes into your hands.
I think the stunt performers handle it pretty well. When we go to 20 degrees, we can do okay, but if somebody falls, they go right down to the low side there. So this ship will tilt at 20 degrees to 30 degrees. And at that point, I'm going to have to hard cable everybody to the ship.
This is to keep me from hitting the ground. 3-ring quick release.
Even though we're well planned and everything, we approach a little unknown every day that we kind of have to figure out on the fly.
We got armor on, back vest, wetsuits, wardrobe, gloves, skull cups. We got it all.
And then we will shoot you guys swinging.
We're about to swing from the Flying Dutchman over to the Black Pearl.
I think it's 75 feet, and yes, it is fun. It's more fun than sitting behind a desk.
What happens if we fell? Well, it's designed actually so that we have these surface loops we really can't fall. Otherwise, if we fall, we're in the wrong job, basically.
Okay, here we go. Picture is up. Ready, please? Here we go.
It's the biggest day. Oh yeah, I've been losing sleep over this for a long time.
We're gonna celebrate the rain and the wind.
Hey, it's living, baby. It's living. Living, it is.
It's great to have a second go at a set. It's really unusual, but to be able to come back and try it again. So it was great.
We started building this in the warehouse. We assembled this in 3 sections. And we took it all apart, loaded on trucks to come out here. Then we placed all the parts together.
On our left here, this is the Black Pearl. And as you can see, they're moving right along. Actually, the painters just came in yesterday.
This is identical to the one that actually is seagoing. The stern section had never been mated up to the main deck in the warehouse. So when we got it here, there was a concern that everything lined up and everything just went together perfectly.
This is the Flying Dutchman. As you can see, sculptors have already attacked it. There's still a lot of work to be done, but hopefully we can do it in the next month or
What we do is we take a spray polyurethane foam and we shoot it all over the boat, and then we sculpt it down to make it look like it's kind of growing on the wood. And then we add rubber barnacles to it to look like it's been under the sea for a long time.
Look at this. Oh, fantastic.
In the third movie, there were over 2,000 visual effects shots. John Noe and ILM had a really difficult task.
Usually when a challenge like that's thrown down, you think about, well, how technically are we going to execute this? And is there any aspect of that that you can't do with our current tool set? There's a lot of research and development and a number of artists working on the look development of the Maelstrom, writing some new software tools to make that all possible.
Wow, that's fantastic, John.
Gore feels very strongly, and I agree with him, that it's important to have real elements. As much as you can do real, the more plausible it's going to feel. Get as much in camera as you can get, and then use visual effects where you really need them. It's raining and storming and giant waves and whitecaps and the foam on the water and the spray. There's not really anything that you can shoot practically for that. So all the water has to be computer generated throughout. The fluid simulations take forever to run. They use a huge amount of memory, and they take a lot of tweaking to make them look right. Seeing ships at sea is something that people are familiar with, so it's important that those things look real because these are part of people's everyday experience. The foreground is pretty complicated as well. There's a gigantic battle happening between the crew of the Black Pearl and the crew of the Flying Dutchman. So we have computer-generated characters in the midst of lots of rain and atmospherics and splintering wood. And so these things are kind of difficult to integrate and make them really look like they're present.
It's be too late to off the cars now, mateys.
It's helpful to be swapping back and forth and not to rely too much on one technique. So one shot, you'll have a background extension that's a miniature, and another shot, we're doing something with computer graphics. As long as you're kind of switching things around a little bit, the audience doesn't kind of key into being able to see the artifice of one particular technique. Continuing to swap back and forth between practical effects and computer graphics and miniatures and whatever you need does, I think, end up with a better looking result.
Behind me are our cable drops. We call them waterfalls. This is basically because it's almost like a waterfall of cable coming down the side of the wall.
This is the back side of the dimmer rack. This is where all the connections are made. So these are all the connections. And each one of these comes in 100-foot links and 50-foot links. Most of them are 100-footers. So they run from here and they go up and into the waterfall and up all the way to the grid. Each one of these cables is running 12,000 watts of light. And then from there they connect another 100-foot, to go out to the lights.
We figured out about how much cable we have installed in this building, and it came out to about 80 miles of cable. That's a lot of cable.
Bring everyone on in for a safety meeting, please. Come on in.
Safety first.
That's what they tell me.
All right, going over safety notes. The same safety notes apply every day. Today we're starting our day up on the stern piece of the Flying Dutchman. We will be using rain, debris mortars, cannons as usual. For the most part, the debris is safe, but if it explodes into your face, it could do some damage. Anyway, just be safe, and thanks a lot.
Get rid of some water. Water and electricity, very, very bad. It's kind of like curling. It's like that curling, that sport curling where you know what I mean? And you have the guys moving the ice rink, doing the thing like that. Kind of like curling. It's really great. It's a team effort, it really is. It takes a village, Jack. It takes a village, man.
Hard to movie making, folks.
All right, lights up. Bring Ray back up. Ray.
This is the retractable sword I'll be killing Orlando with. See that? Just put it right here.
That looks like it really hurts.
We'll be creating extreme environments ourselves. Basically, you're going to see wind machines and a lot of rain machines, and you're going to. We're no longer kind of going so much into the environment, although we do have some water work left. We're going to be doing a lot on stage, and we'll be creating that feeling on stage.
Everybody knows some of what happens in the Maelstrom. The only man who knows all of it is Gore Verbinski.
Kind of look at Gore wandering around, and it's like a very small boy with a lot of toys, and they're very big, and he likes to use them.
I've never seen the right person be in the right place so profoundly as Gore on these films.
Gore approached us, and he's pretty much said, "Did you see the first two Pirates?" I said, "Yes, yeah, we saw the first two, and we're involved in the first." He says, "Okay, I don't want to do that. Take it from there, John." And so he says, "We're going to take it a step further. This is going to be the biggest thing that you've done."
When you go to Palmdale, there are over 1,000 people working on these shots, and actors and technicians and people who are working the mechanical effects, and he's got to orchestrate these things all perfectly so he gets what he wants in front of the camera.
So we're probably going to have a whole bank of, Ritters over here just outside our frame and a whole bank back there. In a Maelstrom, we never want that classic smoke lingering out there. It fires and it gets blown away into the mix.
It's all in his head, which is very impressive when you look at the scale of it.
What is the circumference of the circle of the vortex at that point? Is it an oval?
As an actor, you could almost not read the script at all and just rely on Gore. I mean, you know what I mean? He'd never steer you wrong. He knows exactly every point that needs to be made. He knows the dialogue, basically. I mean, I think he has a photographic memory or something. He's just a wizard, man.
And we can be doing a scene, with 2 massive ships, 400 people, the cannon going off, he's looking at the lighting, he's looking at the camera positions, and he'll just stop and he'll come up and whisper a little note to you about your acting that will make the scene work for you better. He's got everybody covered.
Everything's going exactly according to plan.
He's been working, as far as I can tell, 18 hours a day, 7 days a week, and seemingly has an unlimited amount of energy.
When we're all flagging, he's there going, or come on now, shoot now, just keeping us all going.
Gore, I honestly don't know how he's able to be upright after all that he's done.
You've never seen energy like it, man.
I think he's a robot, actually. A very good filming android.
Hi, I'm Gore Verbinski. I'm a movie addict.
Let's shoot a dry one real quick. Let's shoot one.
Reset.
Tell you, movie addict. I've never seen the man sit down.
That cord.
Unless he's drawing his boards, I've never seen the man sit down.
Starts writing, draws his little stick pictures, and writes out the day's work every day. And these are logistically as complex as I've ever worked on.
Let's do the whole thing again. Let the sword dangle, we'll paint it out, go for the claw moment, fake the snap, we'll cut somewhere.
He's a challenging director. He loves to challenge people.
He's hard at times. I'm not going to lie to you.
This cannon's going to go. All 4 cannons will just go. You can't do this with these cannons, and there's no way.
He's a difficult director to work with at times, but in a good way. You suck. He wants the best, but doesn't only want the best for the film. He wants the best from everybody. He wants the best from all of us. He's involved in all aspects of filmmaking. He never runs to a trailer and hides in his trailer. He's on set from beginning to end. He gets as wet as everyone else. He gets as dirty as everyone else.
The misery will continue today, so let's try to keep our sense of humor and positive attitude. We only have 8 more weeks of this.
He has a good rapport with the crew.
He doesn't know how to turn the spritzel off.
Throw it, just throw it.
Take it from him. Take it. Can I have that one? Because these are good. Who's in charge? You were 17 when this started. She's now 34 years old.
Gore is a unique talent. He is somebody that has a vision, and it's a vision that, like any great director, is unique to himself.
You can't really question the demands when the director is demanding as much, if not more, from himself as he is from you. I think that's the definition of great leadership.
I can't imagine anybody else doing it, and I can't imagine his job being done any better than what he's actually done on these movies.
Good. Nice, check it. Very good.
This stuff is a pain in the butt to put on, but when you have it all on, it looks great. There are about, seems like 4 layers. You have your undergarments, and then you have your pants, and sometimes you'll have a vest.
This is layer number 3.
This here is the jacket. Some guys, they're saying it weighs about a good 15 to 20 pounds. And then here's the boots, and they've, I don't know if they've sewn holes, but some guys have holes in the bottom to go ahead and drain out the water as well. I'm wearing shin and knee pads underneath, and I got some soft elbows and my back pad I'm gonna throw on before I put on anything else.
Just have body armor,
kind of layer.
You're pretty much completely covered. Everything. There's no holes or gaps for anything.
Our process for all, because there's just layers upon layers, and the pads go under, and then it's a pretty heavy deal.
It's also important that you put your pads underneath, because George doesn't like to see pads ever. So you make sure that you hide everything underneath.
Move pretty good. These guys like Spencer and the wardrobe team are awesome. They keep us moving.
All done, except for that big old jacket, but I'm not gonna put that on because that thing's like another 5 to 10 pounds, so I'm just gonna relax.
On the page, it was A Maelstrom Begins. I think one of the biggest challenges of a film of this scale is that you can't prep the whole thing at once.
Should we be moving more of the stuff to stage for consistency?
I mean, it's just a day for a day, I'd rather start on the water and not have all the deposits. And until you fully get into previs, which is we almost storyboard out on the computer the entire sequence, and it's a very long, tedious process.
At that point, we pulled them up, so we had cameras like along here.
It was one of those sequences you couldn't have done without previs. There was just too much going on.
You want to launch him. Ooh, she turns right into a close-up. Bam.
Yeah.
And then kaboom.
How gimbals work, how does the rain work, what are the camera angles, get all those high camera angles looking down. All of that has to be mapped out. You can't figure that stuff out on the fly.
It'd be great to see a frame like that for you. You saw these guys leaving their, jumping off their ratlins or whatever, and they're going towards the other ship.
But until you finish doing that, you don't fully suss out exactly what the sequence is, and then from there you can take it and we sit down, the first AD and Gore, we sit down and we break that out. Until that really happens, you don't really know how long a sequence like that can take the film.
Space lamps, they just generate the light straight down. It's pretty intense heat. It'll be hot up here, and it'll be hot down there, but it'll be really hot for the guys up here. So
the hottest part of the whole system is the cable that runs up into it. That's what gets really hot.
We also have to keep the cable as cool as possible. We have 100 tons of air conditioning up here in addition to all these fans, just to keep air moving as much as we can.
We have temperature indicators showing what each different area is. It's actually really cool right now. It's only topping out about 96 degrees. It'll get up to about 105, 110, depending on how long you let it burn for.
With Scotty and Chris down on the board, controlling that down there, if they have a problem, they can relate it to us and we can fix it up here.
We have to actually keep cameras up there so we can look for smoke.
Being prepared is the most important part.
100 tons of air conditioning.
This is our generation station, our power generating station. We have 10,000 amp CAT plants, so I'm capable of generating about a little over 100,000 amps worth of power here. We also have some small generators put in line that we can run some special effects needs and stuff like that. This is our one of our main cable runs. It's all 4-aught coming in off all these main plants. Each one of these cables is capable of carrying 400 amps at 120 volts. But everything comes in at 480 off the plants, and we step it down to these transformers here, and this takes it from 480 to 220 power into the stage.
Anything that comes down to the ground, though, that is vulnerable to rain or water from the effects guys has to be protected by a ground fault indicator. These are gigantic 1200 amp GFIs. Anything that goes to the floor has to be powered through a GFI. So we protect everybody on set, the actors and the crew, from being electrocuted by running all power through GFIs.
We had to have enough power to be able to run everything simultaneously, and that's why we have so much power. We have enough power here to definitely light up a small town.
My name's Harry Liu. I'm the armorer for the show. I take care of all the weapons.
There we go. Gun is in. Pictures up.
We search high and low to come up with these unique weapons, and some of them belong in the museum. Sometimes just amazed to see weapons like this survive all these years. Here is an example of the Queen Anne. In the foreground, we have a reproduction by Pedersoli. The newer one is more reliable. We have more of these as backup on the day we fire.
We're gonna kill some pirates
Killing
today.
pirates, blowing stuff up.
Thank you, Kelly.
Probably using these.
The second one is actually period piece from mid-1700, and the one in the background, it's a authentic piece from early 1700s. If we're going to shoot it in the rain or in the background, a reproduction is definitely the choice. But for a principal actor to be right in front of the camera, we would rather show something that's authentic.
Boy, my pistol.
Pirate code, if you were the first one to see a ship, you got your first pick at the weapon, and after that, the captain got a pick. This is the predecessor to this 6-shooter right there.
Double barrel, you load both, and second shot.
It's the duck's foot.
You know, little things that we wish that would bring a little smile to our audience.
Bring up the rain, please. Bring up the rain, bring up the wind.
We have dry air systems that blow water off the front of the lens. There's matte boxes that have air hose systems.
Pictures up.
And so when I flip the switch here, compressed air gets shot through, and there's like a little valve on the front of the lens that basically just blows all the water droplets that form on the glass in front of the lens. That's how we see the footage that we have.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Gary. I'm an art department assistant, but right now I'm working on some of the cannon hits that are going to go into the Flying Dutchman during the big Maelstrom sequence. So the Black Pearl and the Flying Dutchman are going to be shooting cannons at each other. So right now we're sort of penciling in where the cannon hits are going to be, and then construction is going to work their magic and special effects, and it's going to look amazing.
We're laying out where we're going to be putting the cannonball explosions and going over the method that we're going to create the breakaway units on, so that as we put them in, we can change them over as quickly as possible.
And it's really complicated because there's structure that holds the ship together and all of that. So we kind of work it, kind of shoehorn it in around all of it.
Cut some of this back and inlay some of the grease off, shard it, so it gives a splintery look.
We're eating away at the ship, making it look like a cannonball went through it and they tore it apart. We're trying to age it all down and make it look old. Set, rolling,
saying about keep your powder dry. Yeah. And this is what we have to do to get the gun working under the rain, the storm, and Pirates of the Caribbean Part 3.
A brilliant armor on the show. His name's Harry Lou. And at first we were talking about putting a little leather piece on top of the hammer and the frizzen to cover it so when the frizzen opened that the leather would keep the rain from coming in. But the rain came down at such a velocity that you know, it instantly got wet. So Harry and I think Peter developed this. They put a charge in it.
This is Jack's gun where he shoots the rope. Him and Elizabeth escaped from the Flying Dutchman. It's very hard and very tedious. We load the gun and then we seal it with beeswax to seal up to keep the powder dry.
Don't chew on this
Well, shall we step into the shade?
The firing range?
Yes, sir. You will keep it in this angle. Okay. Hammer is cocked. Okay. Yes, we're hot. Fire in the hole!
When you're resetting cannons and resetting actors and people swinging across and you got everything that's working, you can't have a misfire.
are married by Barbossa while fighting, which I think is probably one of the greatest things that's ever happened on film.
The two of them getting married in the middle of this battle, doing a ballet of marriage and death at the same time.
It's not just a battle, you know, it's like a battle waltz.
You know, when I first saw the routine, I was like, dude, this is so cheesy. But actually, when I saw the stunt guys do it, and when you put it in context and set it on the Black Pearl, it's kind of very romantic, very kind of pirate-esque romantic, like, you know.
It's a very different choreography within a battle, and it was complex. It had to be right on. It had to be them most of the time actually doing it because it's interweaved.
I think I had about 3 sessions, and then all of the stunt team were working the entire time, so we couldn't then have any more sessions. So we're getting to set and having to learn the fights on set. So Gore is giving us 5-10 minutes walk away, and we are learning the fights there and then. You would have hoped for a little bit more time to actually prepare.
We make a rough map of the territory that we're shooting in when we rehearse it, but it is a very different thing. The boat's going to be tilting, the rain's going to be pelting. It's a whole different thing. I mean, the mind boggles, really.
For 2 actors walking into the wedding sequence that we shot without any prior experience, it would have been next to impossible.
Dearly beloved, we be gathered here today.
And Barbossa conducts the ceremony in full battle mode. He's Mayhem Incorporated. He just mows through people while retaining his glorious character throughout.
Just kiss!
Well, these are the stabbing hearts. It's silicone skin with barnacles, obviously, so it's Davy Jones. They have 2 balloons in each that basically represent the beating of the heart. So we connect these little pipets, and inside there's a blood bag. So when it gets stabbed, blood will seep out the top.
I can take these and put them on there. Has anybody got a brush?
What are you doing?
We're rigging hearts.
Pig heart. Hamburger meat. Sino accolade.
That's the pig heart?
We're losing them. Hamburger meat. I need a grill and some buns, man.
The set's ready for you whenever you want to start getting rigged up there. And I need a heart that I can take up and put on the ground just to line up with. And Dave's question was, how long is it to reset whenever we stab one?
Well, we have 3 that are ready to go.
And we'll be re-rigging. We'll rig one as you use one, and we can't use it again. We'll rig it on the 4th one.
Yeah, and they're wanting to know how long, once a heart goes back into circulation, how long is it to...
I don't know. We've never done it.
Right.
I guess we'll just have to wait a few minutes.
Okay.
There we go. Pictures up.
Let's get some now.
All right.
Bring the wind up, guys.
So definitely take a beat, stab it, take a beat, then release the hands.
Action! Oh, that's a big miss. Try it again. Ready and action. Another miss. Ready and action. Pull your hand away. Beating. No more beating. Let's cut it. Work on that one. Okay. All right. Let's bring back in a better looking heart.
We sort of reappear sort of somewhere towards the end of Pirates 3, really, as far as I can ascertain, guarding the chest with Davy Jones's heart in.
Hold there! Or we'll shoot!
It's amazing. These ships are way up in the air, and there's people fighting everywhere, you know, and you've got to hit this mark when this guy gets killed, and then you've got to be over there by the time this other thing explodes, and you're like, okay, seems quite straightforward. And they go, okay, we're going to go for one. Turn on the wind and the rain, and suddenly it's just chaos. We get to be involved in some fights this time.
Yeah.
Sort of, you know, we don't actually do any of the fighting, we sort of sneak through the fights.
We're not allowed to kill.
We're not allowed to kill anyone.
We're not allowed to shoot.
That's no bad thing, you know.
Are we?
No. No, we're not allowed to sort of draw our swords
We're
or
not allowed
guns
to
in
draw
anger.
or run anybody through with a bayonet.
No.
Despite our honed,
you know,
military training.
Good. We were swinging across from one ship to another through over a massive whirlpool, whilst a huge torrential downpour is going on, and people are trying to kill each other.
However, it'll be two proper stuntmen with a close-up on.
Yeah. When you see the stunt, it'll be two really burly, muscular guys.
Yeah, who know what they're doing.
And in the close-up, it'll be us.
Giles is kind of happy. Angus doesn't look so good. I think we're just too scared. We're just cowards, really.
Initially, P3 seemed like this distant thing. Nobody really knew how we were going to do this. So the realization was that we will have to bring this to reality. We're going to try to perform it live somehow. So, you know, after I got up off the floor, I started thinking about how we might do things. I visualize everything, you know, I dream these things, and, you know, I work visually, and it's a good thing because Gore is a total visual person. We think big. We don't put any limits on the visionary process. You know, we try to make it work. When we got the sets that were, you know, 35 feet up in the air with no railing and looking down, and we didn't have the luxury of the ocean below to protect us. It's cement. I was worried about safety. How am I going to keep everybody safe doing these huge events?
There's a lot of guys working here in battle mode, so when you're walking through, they can't see you from behind.
At first I thought, well, we can't do big battles on these ships when they're at a 30-degree angle, and we did. So, you know, it's amazing what you can do. Some of my team has been with me for all three, and some newer ones on P3. The primary concern was make sure everybody was a good human being and could fit into the team, because every day we're kind of tested. So you want to work with people that get along and watch each other's back. Every human involved had choreography that they were performing in this thing. At times I had as many as 120 people. There's a mortar going over here, and there's an explosion here, and if you get up there and you swing on this rope, the wind's going to take you this way. I mean, a lot of things went on. At the end of every day, I'm personally a limp rag. Throughout all the misery in the battle and falling 100 times and soaking wet and freezing, you can hear the guys cheer at the end of the day.
Big hand for Son.
I think everybody has a sense that, you know, maybe we're making a little more film history here. When I talk to my team, you know, I try to remind them to savor this moment, because all the other things, you know, sort of fade over time. But take a look around, hug the guy that you're next to, whether you think you should have or not.
Love you, pal.
Amazing job. There was a lot of sweat, tears, blood in some cases, and a lot of caring that went into this project. And I hope everybody takes that with us, you know, as the years go by.
Okay, guys, number one, here we go, half speed. Sorry, quarter speed, by the numbers. And action. And cut it, cut. If you are an EITC guy and you get killed, you're killed, you're dead. If you're a Black Pearl pirate and you get killed, you're dead, okay? Okay, here we go, ready? Ready, and action! And cut it. So let's do a walkthrough, another walkthrough. Lisa and Zach are going
them to pick up their pace a little bit because their pace was slower than everybody else. Okay, stand by. Here we go. Ready and action!
I've been performing in front of people ever since I graduated high school. Just getting used to being in front of people and acting, and just would learn from anybody who would teach me stunts and sword fighting. Whenever you see me in gray, I'm performing for Bill. It's quite an honor, I must add. Man, this is amazing.
He does it. I just do the faces.
And I started creating my own little style between martial arts and sword fighting that I had learned over the years. And I developed a safe and really effective style in front of camera where it looks absolutely real, but to be absolutely safe. Whatever the movie calls for, that's the style I want to learn.
We also have 250,000 watt lightning strikes to simulate lightning around the Black Pearl. There's 10 of them all up in the ceiling, and they're all controlled through this controller, one of this controller and this controller. We can set the lightning to any duration we want, to any intensity we want.
This is the muscle of the rig, and the board is the brains. Inside of these things is like 26 motorcycle batteries. Just standard batteries that you have like in a motorcycle or a car. Those batteries are constantly charged just through a regular household plug. When he hits the ignite button, these let out an enormous amount of volts back towards the lights. That's what causes the big lightning strikes to flash.
Once again, you know, this is another one of those situations where it's so weird that you just don't question it anymore. Drive you an hour and a half up to the desert, you're gonna go through the process, go through the works, go inside this building, climb up on board the Pearl or the Flying Dutchman, and we're gonna drench you, and you're gonna sword fight, and you're gonna be at an angle. And you just kind of go, okay, fine, no problem.
The last 10 weeks shooting of the movie, they had nothing left to shoot that wasn't in torrential rain for 10 weeks.
It's kind of brutal, you know what I mean? When the rain comes on, you get drenched through from whenever we start shooting, which could be 8 in the morning, till we finish shooting, which could be 8 at night, you know, or later.
Oh my God, how wet can a man be? How wet and cold can you be? It's just unbelievable. I counted up 9 solid days without ever being dry.
When this costume is wet, I weigh 45 pounds more. And then I've got a, you know, wetsuit on underneath. You can barely move, but you sort of have so much adrenaline on the day, just going for these bits, that you hopefully rise to the madness of the moment.
With wind machines that if they're not careful, they glue your eyelids to your eyes. You can't actually speak because you're standing there trying to stand up straight. And when the wind is going and the rain is real big, fat rain, you know. When that's happening, all your ideas go out the window.
That's the beginning and end of my action career.
It's Will! Your son!
I wouldn't call it acting, I'd call it surviving.
We're working on a 15% kind of slope, and you're running uphill, doing a sword fight in torrential rain that's literally in your eyes the entire time, and you've got an entire camera crew kind of coming at you, and just trying to see to actually know where to hit. I mean, wouldn't say it's the safest thing I've ever done.
And your lenses pop out and everyone's a blur and you think, oh my God, there's a stunt man coming at me wielding a machete. But people, you know, people were very responsible. I think we got quite used to it. It became almost a bit pragmatic. Now I've got to go on deck and fight and kill 13 men.
The yardarm sequence with Davy Jones and Jack, that was another kind of mind-boggler. How can we do this? And, you know, on paper, you can't conceive of two humans fighting on a round yardarm while it spins in a hurricane.
Thomas Dupont is my stunt double, who is, you know, entirely and completely brilliant. He's not just doing the stunts, he's also doing it as a character. I sit and watch him do that, and I drink a lot of Yorkshire tea, and I have a donut, and when he comes off, I shake his hand.
I may be out of a career. I may have to either sue or have him killed. I'm not sure which.
We decided, you know, to make it a little bit more difficult, just so we don't take it easy on this. Let's add hurricane winds to this and rain.
I mean, the stunt guys say they've never seen these kind of sequences before.
We didn't go short on the choreography of those things. You know, we made it real and different and special. So I'm proud of those things, for sure.
When we first saw this shot, we were very nervous about how we were going to replace all those blue balls with crabs. Typically, when we have a blue screen, it's rather clean and you don't have all that shading in there. But John's vision was that these would all represent and simulate the impact of the crabs, so we'd get a good sense of how they would flow over the characters.
They were very helpful to us in that they did provide interactivity. They gave us a really good model for the kind of energy Gore wanted in. They were really good for casting shadows and for sweeping the actors along the deck in a way that would have been really hard to get any other way. Potentially we could have used digital doubles for that, but some of the shots are very close and it would have been hard to make those look realistic.
Everywhere where they were, there was a black hole where a crab would then cover it. So it wasn't as daunting as when we first saw the plates come in. I think when we first saw them as compositors, we were like, you know, how are you going to pull an even blue screen for that? There was a few balls that flew and might have needed like a hero crab simulated just to go in front of that blue ball, or we painted it out. And ultimately, once they were all replaced with crabs, it would feel much more integrated and correct. And there's our result.
When we came into Pirates 3, we thought we didn't have any more work to do really on developing the characters. And that Pirates 3, that was going to be a very smooth, simple process. But it became apparent fairly early on in the choreography of the Maelstrom that we didn't have enough Dutchman characters to cover all the action that was happening in different places on the different ships. And at that point, we didn't have enough time to do them the same way we did them on Pirates 2. It was a very laborious design process.
Because of the experience we'd had on the first film, we were able to do that much more quickly than we were on Pirates 2. And to take all the technology that we developed, all the new tools for our characters, and just put them right to work. And we kind of looked for opportunities where we hadn't taken them before, or we tried to sort of plus things out. If we had an idea that kind of got used on the last film, but maybe not the best way that it could, we sort of looked for a way to do it better this time.
Pirates 3, we gave a lot more leeway to the artists. We had looser designs for what the characters were going to be. We let the modelers just use your own imagination, just do something cool with it.
It's a lot of fun to be able to invent your own pirate, basically, and be able to figure out what you're going to do, how you're going to go about building it.
In the third one, the primary inspiration was coming from what sea life haven't we explored yet? What other things can these guys be sort of infected with? But the way in which they get infected or the way in which they get cursed kind of had to be treated as an infection or a degenerative disease so that you would buy the progression.
We hadn't done anything with sea urchins, and so we did a guy who's basically kind of a giant sea urchin with these big spikes all over him.
One of the guys we developed was Jellyfish. We call him Jelly. And one of the things that I tried to do with him was wanted to make him sort of translucent and corrosive. Kind of wanted to give that a quality of he was kind of regressing back to like an amoeba or like an embryonic stage.
A lot of cases what we did was we borrowed from existing characters. So you could mix and match things to try and create something that looks absolutely different from any other character.
Some of the more interesting designs Gore thought of for clever ways to use them. One of the characters was this eel man who's got a big moray eel for a head. Gore decided that his signature move would be that gets into hand-to-hand combat with somebody, immobilizes his sword, and then uses the eel to bite him on the face.
A lot of times, you'll get things like that kind of push you to go further. So I think that's one of the great things about working in a facility like this, especially on a team like we had on Pirates, because it was just kind of people bouncing ideas, and that can only help to kind of elevate the quality of the work.
It's visually a very bold idea.
It's not just a virtual ocean, it's an ocean like you've never seen before.
The main R&D task was definitely the Maelstrom.
Finding the look was very challenging. Once you try to make that come alive so that it holds up on every frame of the movie, there's a lot of challenges there. And the amount of detail and the scale have really pushed everything we did here at ILM to its limit.
It required a massive amount of computing time. I mean, it was just mind-blowing.
And it was important to Gore that the Maelstrom was just another character and that it had a story to tell.
When you see a wave, there's this incredibly complicated thing going on. It's not just a simple process. You've got all the water molecules and everything is kind of interacting, and it's creating foam and spray and mist and all sorts of chaos is happening, but it's all got some science back there, you know.
We have lots of reference. I mean, we have real-world boat wake references and elements.
And you've got to simulate on the computer all of those waves and everything that happens and get something that will work for a wide shot where you've just got a massive volume of water and then travel down and just look at an individual wave.
You couldn't use miniature water because the scale of the miniature water wouldn't hold up to the level of detail that would be needed. And the fluid simulation engine we use is a starting point. It gives you a lot of natural motion in the underlying water surface, but then we have to really kind of flesh out this environment.
It had to work from all different angles, all different scales, and there were cheats that had to happen.
Luckily, in this sequence, there was a lot of atmosphere in the air. It was mist, it was rain, it was drips and fog. It made it blend better, I think, than if it would have been sort of more dry air, like just the ships in the wakes.
The other challenge was just getting the right scale. And as we started making the shots look more realistic, Gore really reacted negatively.
Yeah.
I totally hear what you're saying.
And see if we make it a little bit more flashed.
Yeah, and so we ended up almost tripling the size of the Maelstrom. The additional challenge was we needed to be able to control it, to aesthetically get the look that the director wanted.
Through different iterations of how can you make that more and more efficient, and how can you make it end up with a result that looks like real water and still does something creative and interesting and exciting.
It's really just a photorealism issue. You have something that's inherently not real, and you're trying to make it, real plausible.
We focus so much on getting the detail right, but in the final film, there's just a handful of shots that really showcase it. So we kind of put a lot of effort into making sure we had a strong foundation technically and on the water surface so that aesthetically it all looks realistic.
All right, there we go. Pictures up. Pictures up.
We get this great news. They're like, "Oh, guys, you're gonna have this scene where you're revealed," and it's like, that's great. Oh, by the way, you're gonna be covered head to toe in slime. Pirates of the Caribbean.
What's that made of?
I think it's gel and some seaweed and a little love in there. There's some love in there.
What is it called? Oh, I don't know. Goop.
Yeah, get away!
This is won't hurt, I promise.
Stuff is cold. Finally, I get to be a human being, and look what you guys do to me.
It's fantastic. Every boy's dream. Dress up as a pirate and then be covered in glue.
Done.
I feel pretty.
You look pretty.
Thank you.
Group hug!
Big group hug. You want to feel love. You want to feel some Dutchman love.
For this stuff, I've got to take off the gloop, take off the costume, all that skin on skin, sprayed on skin, and then we've got to take off the wig.
Oh, look at this stuff, man.
This isn't too bad. It's just for the day. Oh, no, they'll be wearing this for weeks. They're going to be happy to get back to the Devo suits.
Please give me breaks.
Definitely CGI was cool.
You get more FaceTime like this, but it's a little more comfortable in the pajamas.
It's part of the experience, you know. It's what you go through.
Where's the elephant who sneezed?
It's that cracking it moment.
It's part of Mr. Gorbaminski's plan, and I just play along.
Rolling. Ready. Set.
And set.
And a little bit of movement, everybody a little zombie-like.
Candy, keep walking. A little bit of wonderment in there.
Stellan.
Look.
Good, check it. Very nice. Okay, one thing I'd like to do.
Jack Sparrow and Davy Jones are fighting on the yard arm. He flips him over, and when he comes back around, the Flying Dutchman pirate swings him and snatches him away.
They tangle, they tussle, and he takes his gun.
To stop the spinning, and when I spin around, I try to get back around as fast as I can, try to find the camera again.
You kind of held it all the way through there. If we could do that with a straight arm, I think would be good.
This is going to be it. This is it. This is the golden one, man. This is the one. This is the one they buy the popcorn for.